Welcome back to another episode of Mailbag Monday, where Chris and I are answering all of your questions about marketing, data, AI, whatever comes up. This week, ChatGPT skills to avoid job loss. So, Chris, this week, Melanie asked, I lost my content job 2 weeks ago. My employer wants to save money and use ChatGPT exclusively for marketing messaging. What ChatGPT skills to avoid job loss do you recommend I develop, or certifications I should attain to help prevent this from happening again?
Okay, so I'm sorry this person lost their job, but that employer is doomed, right? For a couple of reasons. One, ChatGPT tends to create relatively generic content, even with really good prompting, because it's always a mathematical average of the words used in the prompt. We won't get into the technical side of things. And two, remember, folks, if you're using AI-generated content, it cannot be copyrighted, which means that if your marketing messaging is all AI-generated, anyone else, if it works, anyone else could just pick it up and take it, and you can't do anything about it because you can't copyright it. So be aware of that. For the person themselves, you gotta there's a couple things to do. One is sign up for the free tools. So the two that I recommend people start with are ChatGPT, right? Unless you're working with sensitive information, and Bing's Image Creator. Those are the two tools that they're free, and they're the base foundational tools. And then from there, you start learning prompt engineering. There are not any, as of today, there are not any good courses or certifications for this stuff because the field is changing very fast. There's new models and new technology all the time. And in a lot of cases, the stuff that I have seen being promoted, because there are courses, they're just not very good, are by people who don't understand the technology. They're just sort of copy pasting stuff that they see from around the internet into a hodgepodge. So it is the source of truth is learning this stuff yourself.
I would amend that and say, if you're looking for education, don't look strictly at how to use ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is just the interface, the engine. But really what you're talking about are requirements gathering and logic. And so if there are, I haven't looked into this, and so I apologize if I'm misspeaking, but if you look into business analyst certifications, look into logic courses, because that's really what it comes down to is if this, then that. So if I ask this, then that will happen. And so how do you start to pick apart those prompts to signal ChatGPT or any other generative AI system to do what it is you want it to do? And so if you don't feel like you have a good grasp on logic statements, that's where I might start. So maybe look at some of the software development, lightweight overview, because that's going to give you the basis of things like user stories and logic. Because really, software development, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're programming in R, it's just a series of commands. Tell the system to do this, tell the system to do that. ChatGPT, while more user-friendly, isn't drastically different in the terms of how you interact with it. Like, you can talk to it a little bit more conversationally versus very strict command lines, but it's very much the same idea. So if you're looking to skill up, I personally might start there, looking at more of the business analyst and software development side of things, because ChatGPT really blends the two together. You have to know how to construct the command, but you also have to know to ask for what you want.
I would add, if you have not already gotten a copy, go to the Trust Insights website. Go to trustinsights.ai/prompt sheet. That is our totally free, no forms to fill out, nothing. Just grab the PDF that will walk you through the structure of a good 4-part prompt, right? Which contains, to summarize it, is role, action, background, execution. You tell the machine who it is and what it should know, because you're basically giving it keywords. You will act as a world-class Pulitzer Prize winning writer. You know how to write good journalistic stories in a professional tone of voice. You cover corporate greed stories. Here's some background information about what you're going to do. a bullet point list, write a 750 word article on whatever the thing is. That 4-part structure, which you can get in the prompt sheet, will really help accelerate your prompting. The other thing to realize is that, and I have a blog post in a previous video about this. There's 4 categories. It's a 2x2 matrix of what to share, when you should use AI and when you should not. Right? There's commodity content versus I would call creative content. Commodity content is like the painting on your hotel room wall, right? We've all said it's either a sailboat, a vase of flowers, or something abstract, and no one cares if a machine generated it or a person generated it, because it's just there to not have a big blank wall, right? Versus something that's truly creative. Yeah, you want that to be human led. Commodity content, you're writing an email summary to your boss, you should be using AI for that. And then the other thing is what kind of task is it? A creating task or an editing task? Editing tasks should absolutely be done by machines, right? So summarize this conference call. Machine is great use for that. Write a 5,000 word white paper. Not so much, right? Katie, we had that experience relatively recently. You want to talk through what happened?
Oh, it was terrible. And so we didn't just go ahead and say, hey, ChatGPT, go ahead and write this paper for us on this. But what we actually did was Chris and I sat down and had a conversation and outlined all the different pieces of the paper, recorded it, had it transcribed by Otter, and gave it to ChatGPT to clean up and turn into a white paper. And what it ended up doing, I don't know if it was the prompt or we just, weren't clear in what we were talking about, but it basically turned it into the same 6 repetitive paragraphs for 18 pages that had nothing to do with what Chris and I had talked about. And basically, we had to start completely over again. It gave me writer's paralysis because I looked at it and I said, I don't know what to do with this because now my brain can't put together the pieces of what this was supposed to look like. And so it did the exact opposite of what we were asking it to do. So Chris, to your point about editing, AI isn't always the right thing to do the editing. And so, for Melanie, who lost her content job, there's going to be plenty of jobs out there for people who recognize that AI is just a piece of the process. It's not the entire process. I think we're going to see this a lot is like ChatGPT is still a bit of a shiny object. Companies are trying to save money, but longer term, that's not going to work, especially since, believe it or not, consumers can tell when something is AI generated. And I know I personally tend to, bypass anything that looks like it's not written by a human. And I think that a lot of people feel that way as well. And so companies that are letting go of their teams to save money and just use AI are going to be basically up a creek without a paddle.
Exactly. So for Melanie, number 1, get skilled up on things like requirements gathering, and understand the software development lifecycle. Number 2, sign up for the free resources like ChatGPT, like Bing Image Creator. And there's many, many other apps you can try, but those are the 2 I would start with. And the 3, get good at doing prompt engineering. Those 3 steps will get you to a position where you can advise a company, yes, this is a task you should use AI for. No, this is a task you shouldn't use AI for. There's tons of resources on the Trust Insights blog, on the Trust Insights YouTube channel, which you can find over at trustinsights.ai/YouTube. So please go check those out. If you've got any questions, let us know, and we're more than happy to answer follow-ups. Thanks for watching today's show. If you liked it, please hit the subscribe button and bell to be notified when we publish new shows. If you want to catch all our content, including back episodes, subscribe to our free Inbox Insights newsletter at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Want to talk about what you've enjoyed? Join our free Slack community, Analytics for Marketers, at trustinsights.ai/analyticsformarketers. Need help with your marketing, data, analytics, or AI? Drop us a line at trustinsights.ai/contact. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.